What's up, y'all? It's Vitamin M here, coming at you with another bourbon review, and today we've got a pretty special episode, as you can see here, as I was able to find all three of the first release of the Heaven Hill Grain to Glass series here. Now, I haven't talked a lot about Heaven Hill on this channel quite yet. They make lots of good stuff, like Elijah Craig, Larceny Barrel Proof. They have some select stock stuff, Bernheim and other things like that. But I found these and I wanted to go over them in a video here. Now, Heaven Hill is kind of interesting, just for a little history lesson here. They had this long history of distilling over by Bardstown over in Kentucky, and they still have, I don't have a still there anymore, but they still have all the rick houses and everything there. And then in 1996, they had this giant fire at one of their rick houses, and then there weren't any laws about the distance rick houses could have between each other at that time. So because they were so closely spaced together, they all caught on fire, and all the Heaven Hill product is basically lost then. So what they did was they bought the Bernheim distillery, and then they started distilling Heaven Hill stuff out of there. So Bernheim is now, it's a historic brand within Kentucky, but realistically, it's under the umbrella of Heaven Hill now since they bought that. I was just recently in Kentucky on the Bourbon Trail here, and they said that they were going to put a still back in Bardstown. I don't remember where they said they distill everything, but they age everything, have all the rick houses over in Bardstown. So that's pretty cool here. But little history lesson for you there. And if you get to try some of the pre-fire Heaven Hill stuff, that stuff is excellent. Yellow Rose of Texas, Anderson Club, Virgin, I think is something like that. That was my favorite pour I had recently. But all that stuff is excellent, and to be honest, I do like it more than the stuff they have today. But anyways, let's hit on this Heaven Hill series right here. So Grain to Glass, all of these are 7 years old, distilled in 2017 and bottled in 2024. They all have very unique mash bills when it comes to all the different Heaven Hill products. So the rye is a higher rye content. These bourbons right here, so this is a regular bourbon. This one is a regular high wheat bourbon, which has a higher wheat than I think even Larceny does, which is a wheated bourbon in and of itself. So that's pretty cool right there. But we'll be taking a good look at this. So basically this is kind of a, just something to celebrate their commitment to local farmers and sustainability and whatnot and stuff like that. Take it as you will with a marketing gimmick. I mean, like I've said before, he who tells the best story sells the most bottles. But, since I was there recently, and they are committed to local farms and local businesses, which is great to see. But just know that it's that, and honoring that kind of tradition with local families and whatnot within the Kentucky area for growing grains that they use to distill and stuff like that. I believe for the corn, typically you want a less waxy type of corn, so it increases your yield after distilling. But they wanted to find a good mix of that because kind of the more waxy a corn is, it tends to give a more dynamic and much more abundant flavor or different kind of notes within a whiskey in and of itself. So that's kind of what they were going for a little bit with this on the corn from this. But we have a regular bourbon at 107 proof. We have a wheated bourbon at 121 proof. And then we have a rye whiskey, I believe it's like 65, 63 rye, for 123.2 proof here. So I'll pour a little bit of each here, give my thoughts on them. But I was excited to find these. I tried it at Cox Evergreen over in Bardstown. I tried the wheated, which I'd want to try for a while, and it was fantastic. And I'm excited to try the rest of the series here, and I got pretty lucky finding them all here. But without further ado, let's get started with tasting here. So we have all three of our Glencairns here. I'll get started with the first one, and we'll start with the Heaven Hill Grain to Glass bourbon right here. So this one should be pretty good. This is the lower proof one of the series. This is 107 proof, as I said. So we'll see what kind of, how that changes depending on these other guys here. But we'll pop the cork. Oh, that was good. Nice and bright and full and everything. Good little bright sound. It was pretty good. So do a nice pour here. And just a little bit to taste. So that should be pretty nice. I'm trying this one first. Okay. Color looks pretty good. like a little nice, it's more like a butterscotch flake color. That's fine, it's 107 proof. I don't think this thing's gonna be anything too incredibly crazy. Just the mash bill is probably a lot different than your Elijah Craig's that you get out there, which are super duper oaky and dense, lots of rich oak tannins and stuff. Elijah Craig's always been a very hit or miss bottle for me, so we'll see how this one goes. Hold up in the light a little bit, and still more of that butterscotch kind of color right here, so that's fine with me. Take a whiff on the nose. Ooh, wow. It's kind of closer to the smell of the Elijah Craig toasted rye a little bit. Lots of apple, lots of pear, kind of like a little bit of a pie crust, but there's definitely a very rich, kind of crisp, fruity note to this. I think of Little Book Chapter 7, a little book, where it had a big green apple taste to it. It's kind of like that on the nose here. Very fruity and aromatic. Maybe a little bit of brown sugar and allspices here, but it's not a typical bourbon smell. And we'll have a little taste here, and we'll drink today, because tomorrow we die. Ooh. Still a lot of that fruit. Good kind of brown sugar. Allspice kind of dominates. It's a lot like the nose. There's a rich oak tannin. There's kind of a very earthy note to it, making it kind of dull. It's just kind of plain with that. But you get a good amount of fruit on this, but it's that earthy note that I think is shining through a lot here, which is kind of strange. Yeah, it's just kind of earthy, kind of like dirt a little bit. And that's fine if you're in the mood for that. It's not too bad. I think it's pretty good. It's kind of very mellow, very smooth with the proof, honestly. And it's not too bad going back whatsoever. So it's kind of nice on this one. I'll rank them after I get through all three of them here too. But this one's not too bad. I do like it a little bit here. But it's kind of a dull, kind of earthy taste here. The finish is very lingering, I'll say, with this. It's a lot of good spice, almost not really like a rye, but kind of like, just kind of like spices almost. Not baking powder, but kind of like all spices or so. A little bit of like pear, green apple on the front, kind of like an apple pie a little bit. But it's really that earthy note in the middle that dominates everything. So that's my thoughts on the first one here with the bourbon. And then the wheated, like I said, is phenomenal. I really like this one. I actually had it at Cox Evergreen for half price Wednesday. So a pour of this was $6. So that was super nice. If you're ever in Bardstown, you got to hit up that place. Incredible spot. But this is the wheated. As I said, it's got the red tag. The wheat proportion of the mash bill is 35%, which is higher than Larceny, I believe. Like I said in the beginning, these are kind of funky with what they're doing for their mash bills compared to their other products. So this is going to be closer to something like a Larceny for their wheated bourbons and stuff like that. Excuse me. I guess I enjoyed that one quite a bit. But this one is pretty nice here. Clocking it at 121 proof. Definitely taste the difference in proof here. I got my handy dandy water. Cleanse my palate in between these guys so I can enjoy them all without interference from the others. That's a pretty good cork. A lot more subtle, but not too bad. Have a good little pour of this. Try that. Ooh, I catch that. All right, try the wheated here. It's definitely darker on the color, so that's pretty nice. Have a nice little look at that. Not quite a butterscotch, but it's a deeper caramel, I'll say, within this, so that's pretty nice. Color's already looking more promising than the other one. The other one's good. The earthy note's kind of strange, though, but I did really like this one. So hold up in the light, and, pretty nice to look on the light. You got to enjoy all facets of your bourbon here, so give this a try on the nose. Ooh, it smells like a Larceny, like a honey. There's a little bit of spice to it, like a kick of a rye a little bit. but there's a sweetness to it. It definitely kind of smells like a larceny. That's good though. That's pretty nice. Like there's kind of almost like a tobacco kind of darkness a little bit to it a little bit. But that's nice. So we'll give it a little taste here. And once again, we'll drink today because tomorrow we die. Oh yeah. Just a great syrupy viscosity. I get a lot more honey on it this time. There's almost like a raspberry ting to it as well. Weeded, I tend to pick up more of a red fruit kind of thing, like raspberry, cherry, maybe stone fruit a little bit, but more so raspberry. But this is just such a great viscosity here. Kind of fruity. It's definitely a little grainy, like a weeded kind of graininess. Not as much as like a rye in that respect. But it's got a good heat to it in the middle of your mouth. Good hug going down. Whew, that's really good. It's reminiscent of a larceny with that weeded and that honey kind of taste. It doesn't go as far as like the cocoa or anything such as that, any of those like darker notes, which is fine. It's trying to be different, and that was pretty good. I do like larceny barrel proof quite a bit. So this is a nice comparison. It's lighter though. It really hits home on that honey note, like that kind of sweetness. Maybe not white sugar or something, but it's really close to a honey here. And that is just excellent. That is so good. I think there's a reason a lot of people have been saying this has been their favorite in the lineup. But this is the only one I've tried before, and I really liked it. And that taste I had at Cox Evergreen made me want to find the bottle. And I ended up finding all three. So that's pretty nice. This one is very good, though. I definitely like this one more than this one. This one's just got a weird, like, kind of earthy note going in it. But this is, it's like honey and nectar a little bit. That is pretty nice. Good heat, good graininess, a little bit of red fruit on there. Very nice. And finally, we'll finish off with the rye. And I'll cleanse my palate here once again. Oh, yeah. All right. Now this rye, it's very different than some of their other ryes. Like I kind of think of the Elijah Craig ryes. I don't think they have anything nearly as high as a 63% rye on these guys. So that's kind of interesting. But this one is definitely the biggest proof-wise, 123.2. So that's good to know. Rye, still a lot of corn in this, but it's malt instead of wheat like the other one. This one's got a maltiness, so maybe that's accounting for some of the earthy notes that I get on this. It is what it is, but this one looks pretty good. I was actually able to find this one at Total Wine, and the others I found at another store. But you know, you gotta hunt around a little bit and see what's up. But we'll take a look at the cork. Oh yeah, kind of a pop like the first one. That one was good, nice and rounded. We'll have a nice little pour. Take a look at the color. Okay. All right, so it's 123 proof. So it's probably going to be darker, almost on the same level as this guy. Yeah, maybe a little bit darker. It's more of that caramel kind of note. It's not really like a red or anything such as that. It's not butterscotch like this guy. But it's a pretty nice looking kind of caramel, brown syrup kind of look to it. Maple syrup kind of look. So that's not bad. So we'll hold up in the light. Oh yeah. See it dance around a little bit. It's always kind of nice to do that. Just kind of see it swish around. There's an art to this. I'm not as sophisticated as others on that respect. But we'll take a whiff on the nose. Ooh, yeah. That's punchy. That's just a typical rye punchiness. Like I think of like almost like 13th Colony, Redwood Empire Ryes a little bit. Nothing you won't find elsewhere. There's a little bit of sweetness, like a brown sugar, almost like an apple pie kind of thing to it, but a lot of it is that spice, that punchy graininess of rye, that characteristic of all of them, which is pretty nice. But it does it well, it does it strong here, which is good. All right, we'll take our last sip here. I'll put the bottle up here. You all can take a look at that, and we'll drink today once more, because tomorrow we die. It's not as rye forward as I thought it was going to be. It's more syrupy viscosity, and then it's a nice peppery kind of-ness on the back. Kind of when it hits the middle and the sides of your tongue and works its way back. But that's incredibly smooth and viscous for what it is. Got a strong rye bread note. Stronger than other ryes that I've had, honestly. Ooh, I mean, that's just punchy. Good burn on the nose, good heat, or burn on the tongue. That's pretty good stuff. I mean, there's a little bit of a sweetness, like a honey kind of taste or texture to it. Kind of like a syrupy viscosity to it. I mean, it's okay. I would say it's all right. It's nothing incredibly special that's standing out to me. Maybe I'm missing something, but I'm not seeing anything that's incredibly special right here. Just a lot of rye. Just a lot of a rye taste with a little bit of honey, kind of like a bread, like a sweet bread kind of taste. Kind of one-dimensional to me. That's strange. It's got that big pepperiness. I like the finish, but up front it's just kind of, it's unique for what it is, but it's just, there's not a whole lot of flavor to really pick out here. It's just a rye, it's grainy, it's punchy, pepper. Okay, that's kind of normal. The texture is really what stands out. It's very viscous, almost closer to a bourbon, kind of that syrupy viscosity to it. I don't know, this is kind of funny. I mean, maybe a little bit of oak tannin here, but I'm not picking up a whole lot. It's kind of one-dimensional to me with what's doing. Maybe it'll open up. I've never been too big of a firm believer in that. But I mean, that's kind of strange. I don't know. I guess I was expecting a little bit more, especially on the proof. It drinks lower for what its proof is, so that's kind of nice. But, I mean, what can you do? So, we've had all three here. And I think by far the wheated is the best one. This one's a solid offering. I think it's a little bit of a step up above other wheateds out there. Like, I really like drinking Redemption wheated. I think that's a really good one. I like it more than Weller. I'll be honest, I'm not a big Weller guy. I drink Special Reserve, and that's it. 12, 107, don't do anything for me. Foolproof, whatever. So I would say this is it's a solid 7. It's a good go-to. I think it's very drinkable. It's very nice. So I think that's my favorite out of these. Honestly, I know this had a really dull, earthy note to it, but I'd rather reach for this for what it's got going on. This is kind of closer to like, I want to say like a 6 or something like that. This is that earthy note if you can get over that, or if you like it. It's not too bad, but it's strange how it interrupts everything. But beyond that, it's pretty smooth for everything else it's doing, which is nice. It's 107 as well, so it's a lot easier to drink, which is fine. Then the rye is, I mean, that's just like honestly, it's a 4.5 or something like that. It's boring. There's not a whole lot going on besides the viscosity. that's really it. It's got everything else you want in a rye. It's punchy, it's grainy, it's peppery. There's not a whole lot going on with this one, and that's a shame. But hey, it is what it is. What are you going to do about it? So with that being said, pretty nice tasting right here. I'm going to enjoy drinking this one quite a bit, but it's nice to have the whole collection here, so it'll look really nice within my collection as well. With that being said, happy hunting out there, and I'll see y'all in the next episode. Cheers.